You got April meeting. Welcome to the June meeting of the board. Due to the COVID-19 coronavirus crisis, we will be conducting our meeting electronically rather than in person as authorized by Governor Sununu Emergency Order Number 12 pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04. The Governor's emergency order waives the usual legal requirements for a physical location at which the public can observe and listen contemporaneously to ZBA meetings. However, in accordance with the emergency order, the city is taking the following steps to provide public participation in and access to the proceedings as fully as possible. A, providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. We are utilizing the Zoom platform for this electronic meeting. All members of the board have the ability to communicate during this meeting through the Zoom platform, and the public has access to listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting through dialing the following phone number: 1-929-205-6099. That is 1-929-205-6099. And the webinar ID number is 60191. On the following website address: https://us02web.us/j/610919-318. To repeat, https://us02web.j/610919-318. B, providing public notice of the necessary information. Given notice to the public of how to access the meeting using Zoom, and you can find detailed instructions on how to participate on the City of Concord website at www.concordnh.gov/280/zoning-board-of-adjustment. That's www.concordnh.gov/280/board-of-adjustment. C, providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anybody has a problem, please call 603-856-3970 or email at code@concordnh.gov. D, adjourning the meeting if the public is unable to access the meeting. In the event that any member of the public is unable to access the meeting concerning a case or cases in which they have interest, please call 3970 or email code@concordnh.gov as soon as possible. We will adjourn the hearing and reschedule it for a time that will allow to call. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by a roll call vote. So let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please state whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Jim? Unmute. I didn't hear you, Jim. David, can you hear me? I couldn't hear Jim.
No, I can hear you, Nicola. Jim, are you muted still?
He's off now.
Jim, we can't hear you.
Can you hear us?
It says you're unmuted.
All right, let's go.
He can call in on that number if he needs to.
All right, let's go with Laura. Scott, go ahead and.
Jim, if you have a phone next to you, you could call in on a separate line.
I have no one with me at the moment.
Laura Spector Morgan.
I am in my house. I have no one with me.
Andrew.
I'm in my office.
Only heard part of that. Do it again, please. Andrew?
better
There he
now?
is.
Yeah, why don't you just do it again, please?
Sorry, I think I fixed the problem with my connection. I'm alone in my office.
And I'm Nick Wallner, and I'm alone in my office. Let's try Jim again.
No,
Jim, can you hear us? All right, so stand by. David, what do you think?
he can call in like on a regular cell phone and we'll just connect him that way. He can keep on his video.
Jim, I just sent you the phone number and the webinar ID. I don't have your attendee number though.
Well, he just logged out.
So while we're doing that, why don't I just go ahead and start with the procedure for hearings? Does that sound all right to everyone?
Yes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the July 1st Zoning Board meeting. We're going to hear two types of cases tonight. We're going to hear special exceptions and requests for variances. I'm going to call each case as they are on the agenda, and I'm going to ask that the applicant be sworn in. I will swear you in. I'll ask you to state your name and your address, and I'll ask you to tell us what you'd like to do. We'd like you to confine your comments to about 10 minutes. We have a pretty long agenda tonight. At that point, the members of the board will ask you questions, and then I'll be soliciting comments of anybody who's in favor of your application, and then I'll ask for comments for anybody who's would like to speak against the application, and then I'll get comments from the code enforcement officer, and then finally I will ask you for any rebuttal to any new information that the applicant has heard. Once we've heard that, I will declare the case closed, and we will deliberate and render a verdict at that point.
James Monahan is logged in, signed in on his phone. Can you hear us now, Jim?
I am on my computer, but not on my phone. Can you hear me now?
So would you just
Yes.
And sign in and tell us if you're alone or not?
I am alone.
Great. Okay. David, are you ready for us, or is there anybody else you want to try to identify before we start?
No, I think that's it. No one else is new that's come in since we've done it. So your meeting, sir.
Great, thank you. All right, so our first case tonight is case 26-20. That's Advantage Signs for Concord Litho Group. Applicant wishes to install 5 freestanding signs and request a variance to Article 2869C, permitted freestanding signs to permit 5 freestanding signs to be placed on a single lot where only 1 freestanding sign is permitted per lot for property located at 92 Old Turnpike Road and 19-27 Terrell Park Drive in an industrial district. Is there somebody from Concord Litho Group?
Yes, this is Josh Messenger speaking for Advantage Signs on behalf of Concord Direct.
Are you the only one?
Yes.
All right, Josh, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right, thanks. Tell us what you like to do.
We'd like to put 5 directory signs that will direct truck drivers, customers, and other people using the property to appropriate loading docks. So as you can see, the building is very large, and it's been impossible for truck drivers to find the loading docks in the rear of the building. So what's been happening is truck drivers are driving in and making a mess of the parking lot, causing congestion, and it's just really not feasible for them to continue doing business like this. They invested a lot of money in the building as a new renovation, and they feel that the directory signs are necessary to conduct business. So.
Could you speak a little bit to the hardship issue?
Well, the hardship is that people can't find the building, and that it's one sign is not enough to be able to continue business. There's 4 or 5 tenants in the building right now, and one sign would not be enough for those 4 or 5 tenants. One of the issues is that the department of Health and Human Services renting a space from them. That's where they're keeping all their PPE supplies, and the truck drivers cannot find what loading dock to get the PPE supplies.
Any questions from members of the board?
Oh,
No, you go ahead, Laura.
I was gonna say, I thought when this came, didn't this project come to us in the past? I thought we talked about signage, or am I mixing this up with another case?
This is the first time that Advantage Science has represented this. It might have been represented as a site plan through Novus Engineering.
Right. Yeah, I didn't, Josh, I didn't think you had been here before, but I thought with this had come up and maybe I was just imagining it, but, so
No,
I just want to make sure I understand the, so you have multiple tenants in the building, and what's happening is drivers that are trying to find which unit to go to can't figure out where to go because there's no signage to get there.
Exactly.
Thank you.
And Laura, just to clarify, yes, they did come through with their site plan review quite a while ago, but it didn't, or for some variances, but they didn't really show signage on it. It was all preliminary plans, so they never got any relief for it at that point in time.
Okay, all right. Good to know that I didn't make up the site plan, but all right, thank you.
Questions from other members of the board?
I'm just trying to, I'm trying to figure out what exactly is the rule that you need to vary from. Is it the number of signs, or is it the size of the signs?
It would be the number of the signs as far as I understand.
So how many are you permitted there? How many, are you only permitted one and you need 5 because you've subdivided now?
Yes. So there was originally one, but it was a one tenant building, a single use building. And since then it's been renovated to hold 4 or 5 tenants. So trying to have signage for each tenant is what we're trying to do.
So, okay. So you, right now, how do you have one sign that's kind of divided up into 5 different tenants with arrows or something?
Currently, there's only one sign that's located on Old Airport Road, or Old Turnpike Road, I'm sorry.
And so it just includes all tenants, but that's what creates confusion because everyone pulls into that one sign and then they have to go from there.
Right, so right now, Craig Walker's pulling it up. It shows Concord Litho as on Old Turnpike.
And
So,
it looks like you have what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 curb cuts, and that's where you're putting all these different signs. Is that correct?
exactly.
All right. Any other questions, Jim?
No, I'm good.
Or Spector Morgan?
All set, thank you.
And I'm all set too. Great. Is there anything else you'd like us to know?
I believe that's it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Messenger. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of this application?
No hands being raised as of yet.
Okay, let me go on to the next one. Is there anyone that would like to speak against this application?
Everyone that's logged in is accounted for other cases, sir.
Okay, thank you. Craig, any comments from you?
I don't think I have anything additional to add, really, except for maybe to comment. We do have a provision in the zoning ordinance for larger directional signs, but that section of the ordinance is designed for campus situations where there's internal roadway intersections where turning decisions need to be made. This isn't a campus, obviously, and there's no internal roadways, so it didn't qualify under that section.
Okay. I guess with that, I'll declare the hearing closed and ask members of the board to tell me what they think.
I have a question.
Please.
And maybe this is for Craig or applicant. The existing sign, is that staying or leaving?
That will be staying.
So you're not gonna have 5 signs on site, you're gonna have 6.
Right. There will be 1 on Old Turnpike, and then there will be 5 on Terrell Drive.
Does that jam them up, Craig? Because the application really says, I mean, it's slightly unclear because he says installation of 5 freestanding, but it's not, they really want 6, right?
I don't think it'll create an issue in this case here. We're advertising the 5 new signs, and the other sign is actually fronting on a separate street. I don't see that'd be an issue at this point.
So just to be clear, then, if I can ask the applicant again, you have 5 tenants. So you're gonna have 1 sign that's kind of for the whole building, and then 5 for each individual tenant. Is that the idea?
The signs are really designed just to direct traffic to the loading docks. There should be a packet in your design that shows what the design looks like. So it has arrows directing.
Right, they're all directional signs.
Yes.
So I do have a question now. I don't know if it's for Craig or the applicant, but these are freestanding signs close to the roadway. And how many square feet?
Well, the maximum building size for an industrial zone is 100 square feet. So they'd be able to divide 100 square feet of signage by 3, approximately 33.3 square feet each.
All right, any other questions or comments from members of the board? Anybody want to start it off? The motion?
I will, I'll make a motion to approve the request. I think it's reasonable. Again, I remembered the site plan, but by having this many tenants and having deliveries and truck traffic, I think it is reasonable to make sure that people know where they're going. They're directional signs. They're not that big. I don't think it'll be intrusive on the neighborhood. So I make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Thank you. We have a motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll conduct a roll call. Laura Scott,
Aye.
Andrew Winters,
Aye.
Laura Spector Morgan,
Aye.
Jim Moynihan.
Aye.
And Nick Wallner votes aye. The motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much, Mr. Messenger.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Our next case tonight is this case 27-20. Chris Trider is allowed for property located at 34 Donovan Street in an RS residential single-family district. Before we discuss this case, though, we need to determine whether this case differs materially in nature or degree, or whether the circumstances affecting the property have changed significantly when compared with the request and circumstances existing under the request in case 35-05 and 49-05. So I do need to tell everyone that if you looked at your original paperwork, there was a couple of pages missing of the past hearings back in 2505 and 2006. And Craig, I think, sent them out shortly before this meeting. Has everyone gotten the chance to look at those?
Yes.
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 Okay, so I guess we need to discuss whether this is materially different from those requests of 15 years ago.
It seems to me that they are. 2 years or many years ago, it was a 2-story 38 by 38 garage. Now it's a 1-story, much smaller garage. In the past, it was a 7-foot setback. Now they're proposing a 15-foot setback. So I think it's materially different.
Anybody else think differently? All in favor of considering this as a new hearing? Laura Scott?
Aye.
Laura Spector Morgan?
Aye.
Andrew Winters?
Aye.
Jim Winters? Jim Monahan?
Aye.
And Nick Walner says aye. All right, we have a new case before us. Mr. Trider, are you on?
Yes, I am.
Great, let me swear you in. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
State your name for the record and where you live, and then tell us what you like to do.
My name is Chris Trider. I live at 34 Donovan Street in Concord, New Hampshire, and I would like to put up a single-story, two-car garage in my backyard.
And what's the dimension of your garage now?
I don't have a garage right now.
No, but what will it be? What's the dimension?
Oh, I'm sorry. It'll be 30 by 24.
Okay. And originally you requested one for 38 by 38. I think that was your first request.
Yeah, that was 15 years ago, somewhere in that ballpark.
And then you followed that up with a 3-car garage request, which was also denied. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now you're down to a two-car garage.
Yes.
All right. Tell us a little about what the hardship is. And why you need a variance.
Well, I need a variance because I'm going over on the square footage of lot coverage. As far as the hardship, I've lived in this house for 34 years. I kind of like to stay here. I'm 61. I sometimes feel like my back is older than me. The elements in the wintertime, I just would like to have a garage to be able to keep my vehicles in there in the winter and make it a little easier for myself, if possible.
And is that a characteristic of your neighborhood that other houses have garages and you're one of the houses that does not?
There are other houses in the neighborhood, yes, that have 1- and 2-car garages. They're scattered throughout the neighborhood.
Okay. Members of the board, do you have questions?
Craig, can you show where on that picture? Can you go back to that? Can you show where on that picture that new garage is? Is it to the right of the building?
Yeah, the garage, so this is the breezeway, there's a kitchen, so the front of the house is here. He'd be building an additional driveway there, and the garage would go right here.
So that he's still within the setback there, or he's outside of the setback?
Well, yeah, I mean, he's encroaching into the setback at that location, so.
Oh, I thought it was, let me just.
No, it's not a lot coverage. It's a setback issue. They don't have a problem with the lot coverage.
Oh, so.
Oh, no, there's two questions first, correct? One of them is the setback, one is the lot coverage, right?
Oh,
Right.
okay. Oh, okay. I'm looking at his application. He primarily talks about the lot coverage issue, but there also is a setback issue.
So I have a question of the applicant, Nick, if that's okay.
Please do.
So,
Hello again.
yep, so on the rear setback, you want to be 15 feet from the setback rather than 25. Why can't you move the garage forward? Or does that create other challenges where you want setbacks?
Well, yes, that's why, because I'm on a corner lot, the street represents my front and backyard, even though it's really my front and side yard. So I have to measure 25 feet from the street, that Novell Street, as opposed to 15, even though it's like the side of my yard. It's really considered one of the fronts or the backs, I guess. So I have to measure 25 feet in from there, and then 15 feet from my neighbor's property. my setback, but it's pretty close, and I'm over the percentage of lot coverage.
Wait, are you in both setback? Are you in the setback on Novell Street and against your neighbor, or just against your neighbor there? Are you? I'm trying to see how to point it out. I guess that's a front and a rear. Are you too close to Novella Street with this, and also too close to your neighbor, or just too close to your neighbor?
Well, I'm not sure what. When you say too close, I'm not going over my setback lines. I'm just coming up to them. It'll be close, but it's not going over in both cases. The setback line from the Bell and the setback line from my neighbor.
So, well, you need a variance for because you're going too close wasn't the right term, but you need a variance.
Actually, can I jump?
Yeah,
I need to jump in here.
Yeah.
I need to jump in here. I made an error because that's actually 2 side yards. It was a late afternoon. I just missed that there. Those are actually 2 side yards, each one of them having a 15-foot setback. So really, forget that setback one. That's my error. It's the lot coverage issue is really all that's in play right now. I apologize for that.
Oh, that's okay.
Item number 1, is that correct?
Yes, correct. We can eliminate item number 1 there.
Okay.
Oh, because
they have sufficient setback from the front property line, so they are okay on that.
so it's only 15 feet, and he's within 15 feet, so he's okay.
Correct. Yes.
Got it.
Can you zoom out so we can see the other lots in the neighborhood? That's good. Thanks.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, the applicant, this. You're not going over lot coverage by very much by doing this, but you're basically adding an extra driveway. I mean, I know I can see why you wouldn't want to really cost-wise, but since you're adding a driveway to the garage, you could get around the lot coverage issue by tearing out the other driveway and making that green space. Am I wrong?
That's the plan.
Oh, and you're still over?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. Probably I didn't appreciate. Okay, so that's the plan. So do you know how much lot coverage do you take up now? Do you know roughly?
I don't.
Do you think you're over now as it is?
I honestly wouldn't know what to venture for a guess.
Okay, fair enough. I mean,
they're close enough, Andrew. They probably are not over at this point. They're probably right on target, I think.
Well, according to the application, it looks like it's 39.16%.
Oh,
yeah.
So he's really only increasing it by less than 6%. I hear silence. Any other questions from members of the board?
Yes, so I just don't know the answer to this. Be good if Rob was here tonight, but the garage is proposed to be 30 feet deep.
No, this is going to be 30 feet wide and 24 feet deep.
Okay. Is that a standard size garage, or if you were?
Well, the reason I don't know if it's a standard size. Perhaps the standard size would be 24 by 24, but I'm adding the extra 6 feet because I have a bulkhead that comes out into my yard. Well, it comes into the driveway now, and I'd like to move that bulkhead into the garage for safety and security, getting in and out of there in inclement weather again. So I'd like to put that in the garage, and so it measures 6 feet out from the house. So I just want to put that in the garage. That's why I'm asking for the extra space in the garage, so that I can have entrance from the bulkhead into the basement through the garage. And I fill in a fill in the hole and patch up the basement where the bulkhead is now.
Any other questions? Seeing none, Mr. Trider, is there anything else you'd like us to know?
I think that covers it. Thank you for listening.
All right, thank you for your application. Stand by. Is there anyone who would like to be heard in favor of this application?
And no,
Anyone who would like to be heard in opposition to this application? David, we haven't seen any hands up, right?
no additional people logged into the call.
Craig, your comments.
I have nothing additional to add at this point.
All right, with that, I'll declare the hearing closed and open it up to the board members. Andrew.
Well, I'm looking at the GIS map here, and he's within his neighborhood. I'll say if he doesn't have the smallest lot, it's pretty darn close. I mean, there are some lots not very far from him that look like they're about 5 or 6 times as big with, you know, comparable houses. It's going to be a little dense, but it's a pretty modest request, and I think having a garage in this area is reasonable. We could ding him for the 6 feet, but I think his explanation made sense, so I'd be inclined to approve it.
Jim?
Yeah, I agree with Andrew. I think on the whole, the garage cleans up the property. It adds value to it, gets clutter out of the yard, and so an extra 6% is not unreasonable from my perspective.
Laura Spector Morgan?
I'm torn, but I will agree with Andrew and Jim.
All right, Laura Scott?
I'm in agreement.
All right, sounds like we are ready for a motion.
I move that we approve the variance to increase the lot coverage.
And do we have a second?
A second.
Further discussion? All right, I'll do a roll call. Laura Spector Morgan?
Aye.
Andrew Winters?
Aye.
Laura Scott?
Aye.
Jim Moynihan?
Aye.
Nick Walmer says aye. Motion carries 5-0. Mr. Trider, you have a garage.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now you have to pay for it.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part. Well, it's been a 15-year process for you, and congratulations.
Thanks again. I appreciate it.
Welcome. So our next case is Mr. Arndt, but I don't see him at all as an attendee or a panelist. Craig, what do you think?
If he's not present, so move on to the next case. I will try contacting him.
All righty, let's do that. Stand by while I get this ready. All right, our next case tonight is case 30-20. Jay Gamidi for Concord Hospital. The applicant wishes to install a building sign and freestanding monument sign and requests the following. 1, variance to Article 28-6-9E, sign illumination, Section 1, to allow an internally illuminated building sign where only external illumination is permissible. 2, variance to Article 28-6-9C, permitted freestanding sign, Section 1, to allow an additional freestanding monument sign when such a sign would be the third freestanding sign when only one freestanding sign is permissible. And finally, variance to Article 28-6-9E, sign illumination, Section 1, to allow an internally illuminated freestanding monument sign where only external illumination is permitted for property located at the hospital campus at 250 Pleasant Street, also known as 116 Langley Parkway in a high-S institutional district. Mr. Gamidi, are you here?
I'm here.
Wait, you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right, again, state your name and where you live, and then tell us what you want to do.
My name is Jay Gamidi. I live in Amherst, New Hampshire, but I represent Concord Hospital at 250 Pleasant Street in Concord.
All right, floor is yours.
Okay, so what what you described for our applications is quite, I don't want to say complicated, but it's quite inclusive of a project that we're working on. So what Craig has on the screen right now is a rendering of what the proposed building sign would look like. This building sign is scheduled to be on the equivalent of the first floor to our new medical office building named Memorial West. This building is plus or minus 150,000 square feet and actually opened to the public this past Monday. Oh great, campus shot. So here we have Memorial West, which is the mouse hovering right now. And just adjacent to this building is Memorial East. Please feel free to interrupt at any time. This could get a little, I don't want to say complicated, but a little overwhelming. Memorial East has an address of 246 Pleasant Street, and the main entrance that serves Memorial East and the 3 top floors of Memorial West is considered 248 Pleasant Street. Now, the frontage on Langley Parkway, the 116 Langley Parkway address, is an entrance that right now solely serves the Concord Orthopedic Surgery Center. And while we do have an agreement with the Orthopedic Surgery Center, they are still their own entity, their own brand, their own organization. And having them reside in one of our medical office buildings on our expansive campus, we are looking to have a clear distinction that this is the Orthopedic Surgery Center and not necessarily a Concord Hospital specific exclusive service. And the reason why we ask for variances for illumination of this sign and the separate monument sign also illuminated is not only for identification and branding, but it's also for wayfinding. The hospital campus is, while it's not massive as far as hospital campuses go for our area, it is quite large. And it regularly becomes overwhelming for our patients and visitors who attend, meetings, practice, regular annual visits, day surgeries, whether it's orthopedic or another day surgery at the hospital, and people get overwhelmed. So wayfinding is something that I work with on a regular basis in my department at the hospital. So the application is requesting that the sign on the building be illuminated to help give distinction to the portion of the building that is occupied by Concord Orthopedics, as well as the monument sign, which is proposed to be on the hill. This is a little bit of an older satellite picture, but at the corner of what we call Delivery Drive and Langley, you'll see right there where the mouse is, thank you, a construction trailer, and that trailer is now gone. It's now green space with a parking lot just behind it. And we've also proposed that a monument sign be erected there. The sign fits within size parameters of the sign ordinance. We are just asking for that to be internally illuminated. The sign, since it resides on a hill, the uplighting that might be more typical of one of these signs, we find might be a little bit more actually intrusive to the neighborhood. The same way with the Concord Orthopedic sign on the side of the building. That we did look at options to have it lit from below or from above, but it has various issues with not only maintenance for us, but roosting spots for birds and just, we have other signs like that, and they're not the cleanest of things at the hospital. Also, a lot of our patients are not in the, I don't want to say, they're a little anxious when they come to the hospital, and providing them a wayfinding experience and the easiest way to get to where they're going is our goal. Patient care for the community is what we really strive for, and if we can do a little something extra by illuminating a sign and making it stand out when they meet that decision point of Langley and Pleasant Street and they see it. Oh yes, I'm going to get my hip replaced. They head up the road and they pull in. It's a little something extra that we can do to make the patient experience a little bit better.
All right, questions?
I have a quick question. Are the signs on your other buildings, and I'm sorry I don't know this, I was just there last week, are they internally illuminated?
We do have one on the Payson Center building, which was a recent addition that is illuminated. That is right there. Yes, thank you very much. So that sign is internally illuminated. And again, that's its own entity. It's while there is a partnership with Concord Hospital, it is its own brand and identity for the Payson Cancer Center. The other illuminated sign we have, we have one more illuminated sign, and it's a four-way wayfinding sign at the corner of Pleasant and Langley. And that's proven to be invaluable too, especially in the darker winter months when people are entering the campus and they're trying to determine which way best to make it to their appointments.
And what about the sign for the emergency entrance? Is it illuminated or not?
I believe just the word emergency is illuminated. The identifier for the emergency department is not illuminated. Just the illumination for emergency so that ambulances can see it in a hurry.
Okay. Andrew, questions?
No, I don't have any questions.
Jim?
No, I'm good.
All respect to Morgan?
No, thank you.
Great. Any other questions from anyone? All right, seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone who'd like to speak in favor of this application? Seeing none, I don't see any hands raised. Is there anyone who'd like to speak in opposition to this application?
Sorry, Nick, I was on mute. We do have one hand up. There's actually two hands up now. The first one that went up was Tim Paris.
Mr. Paris, are you on?
I am.
Mr. Paris, you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, for the record, state your name and where you live.
My name is Timothy Paris. I live in Ware, New Hampshire. However, I'm speaking on behalf of Concord Orthopedics at 264 Pleasant Street.
All right, what would you like us to know, Mr. Paris?
Well, Concord Orthopedics is in favor of the sign and the variances. We are a member of a partnership that is a joint venture with Concord Hospital for the Orthopedic Surgery Center, which is its own individual entity. And we want to reinforce the statements by Jay Gametti that this is a important branding issue and also a wayfinding issue for patients so they don't get confused either turning into our facility off of Langley Drive to go into Concord Orthopedics or going to other areas on location of the campus for Concord Hospital.
Do any members have any questions of Mr. Paris? Thank you, Mr. Paris.
One other hand up, please, Nick. Miss
And who might that be?
Brisson.
Who is that?
Allison Brisson.
Ms. Brisson, are you on?
I am.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name for the record and where you live, and tell us what we'd like to know.
All right. This is Allison Brisson, and I live in Stratford, New Hampshire. I'm speaking on behalf of Concord Hospital. I'm supportive of this request. I think that, so I'm Director of Facilities Engineering, and I often have to deal with patients that don't know where they're going and end up where they shouldn't be. So I think it's critical that we can get folks where they need to go. Additionally, I am not in favor of uplighting a sign on this building. I'd much prefer an internally lit sign, as Jay Giametti said, from a maintenance perspective. but also we do have helicopters coming in and out. And I think it's certainly best if we can have internally lit versus uplight for them. And that's all. Thank you.
Any questions of Ms. Brisson from the members of the board? Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to speak for or against the application? Craig?
No, I don't have anything special to add. It's just, we are on a campus this time, but the freestanding sign doesn't count as a directional sign, so they weren't able to qualify under that exemption either. So, but here we are.
Great. With that, I'll declare the hearing closed. Let's start off with, who did I start off with last time? Laura Spector-Morgan, you're on.
So, and please pardon my dog in the backyard, in the background. I don't have any issue really with the number of signs. I think putting a sign in that location for directional purposes makes sense. And given the size of the property and the number of buildings on there, I can see where the hardship is. Do you have a concern with the internal illumination? What I've heard is that they want that for branding, and that's not an appropriate reason to grant a variance. I find it extraordinarily hard to believe that people are not going to be able to find their way with a sign that is either uplit or downlit, especially for what is essentially a daytime operation, if the signs aren't internally lit. So I am in favor of the variance allowing the number of signs, the third sign, but I am not in favor of the variance for the internal illumination.
Property, they could have individual identification signs on all the buildings. They can have internal directional signs of up to 12 square feet. That would identify where to go and what to do. So, yeah. So to answer your question, only one freestanding sign is permitted per lot.
I mean, so basically on the frontage for people coming off the street, once they're in the campus, then they are allowed more freestanding signs for like each individual building.
Well, directional signage, which are a little different than a freestanding sign. Directional is for that purpose, and they don't necessarily have advertisement on them. So they might have a direction with a name of a business and just saying go that direction, but it wouldn't be used for advertising purposes.
Okay.
Or Scott?
I have been on the campus recently, and signage is good. Half the time I turn in the wrong driveway up there, even though I've been a million times. So I'm in favor of the additional signage. It makes sense for branding. It makes sense you go to the right building. Even with the signage, people interfere with helicopters. That's a pretty impressive uplighting of a sign on the ground. So again, I would say when we move forward with this, we may want to take each one of these variances separately and not do a joint motion, but that's just my 2 cents.
Very good. Jim?
Yeah, if I could just jump in with one question for Jay. I should have asked you this before, but when you say internal illumination, I can't remember if this is going to be the halo type effect or translucent letters.
They will be translucent letters with internal LED lights as proposed.
Thank you.
And let me call on Jim.
Yeah, I guess I agree that we should separate the question because I'm still getting my arms around the internal illumination. So, I'll leave it at that, and then when we deliberate, I'll see if Laura can convince me.
Why don't we start then? Let's do variants 2 and 3. In other words, that's for the 2 signs. We'll deal with the elimination issue last. So on variance number 2, permitting a freestanding sign to allow an additional freestanding monument sign when such sign would be third freestanding sign when only one freestanding sign is permitted. let's vote on that first.
I move that we approve that.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion?
I'm a little shaded by the fact that it strikes me as a little preposterous that such a large campus would only be allowed one sign. But having said that, I mean, kind of evident that they would need it.
Further discussion? All right, let's do a roll call. And I'm only following my screen, so Laura, I'm always going to pick on you first. Laura Spector Morgan.
Aye.
Andrew.
Aye.
Laura Scott.
Aye.
Jim Moynihan.
Aye.
Nick Walner says aye. Second variance is approved, 5-0. Third variance is to allow, we have two illuminated sign issues, don't we?
Yep.
All right, let's go back to variance number 1, to allow an internally illuminated building sign where only external illumination is permissible.
Jim, do you want me to convince you?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
So here's my concern. There's a reason internal illumination is prohibited, and that is presumably for light pollution. This campus already has 2 or 3 internally illuminated signs. Now they want to add 2 more. It's a property that's going to continue to be expanded. They're going to, in my opinion, want to do this on future properties. And I think if we continue to allow them, then we've essentially negated the purpose of the ordinance, which is to reduce the light pollution. So while this 1 or 2 signs might not kick them over the edge, the whole property certainly would. And if everyone in the neighborhood wanted an internally illuminated sign, certainly that would be an issue. And that's something we can consider under Supreme Court law. So I will not be voting in favor of this variance.
Can I ask you a question about that? So by light pollution is just the total amount of light coming out. So you wouldn't want to say, like on Loudoun Road, obviously, if you gave one person an illuminated sign, then every business would want to compete and it would just become an eyesore. Is that basically the idea?
Yeah.
Okay. It's hard for me to wrap my head around how to apply that to Concord Hospital when it's
Up as well. And so it's a bigger issue with light pollution. It's an environmental issue as well as neighbor issue.
like environmental in terms of
being able to see the stars, being able to, it affects animals by having too much light when it's supposed to be dark out and the light goes straight up, which actually goes to my question to Craig. If it's not internally illuminated signage, do we require down lighting, or can they do down lighting or up lighting? And I'm sorry, I don't know that answer. I should have known that. But.
And I'm sorry, I don't have my book open to that page. Give me a second. Talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah, I mean, it would seem to me that directional lighting would probably be more of a pollutant than internal lighting, but that's just my thought.
If it's done right and it's downlit, it's directed on the sign and not everywhere. If you have an internally illuminated sign, the light shines out all over because it's from the wall face of the sign versus directed on the sign.
Laura? So
Yeah.
here's what the section says. Signs in the civic performance, institutional, and urban transitional districts may be externally illuminated by a shielded fixture, but may not be internally illuminated.
Thank you.
Is internal illumination allowed anywhere in the city?
Yeah, yes, mostly commercial districts like Loudoun Road, Manchester Street, Main Street. Well, Main Street's changed now, but they do allow halo effect on Main Street. Yeah, I mean, many of the heavy commercial districts allow internal illumination. Institutional districts are a little different because they do often tend to be within other residential or within a residential district many times.
So quick, let me ask you a question. Let's say from St. Paul's School down to Fruit Street, are there any internally internally illuminated signs?
I'd have to do an inventory, but off the top of my head, I can't think of any.
We didn't, this was years ago, but didn't we rule on internally illuminated signs at the, I think it's an assisted living?
Yeah, it was the Presidential Oaks. I think they came in and wanted an illuminated sign, and I could be wrong about this. I think we denied it, and they externally illuminated it. And I also think there was some agreement that they were going to turn the lights off at certain hours. That could be somewhere else, but so.
Yeah, I think that, thank you, Jim. That you have a good memory. I think that sounds about right.
So I think, if I can jump in, Nick, I think Laura's persuaded me, particularly when the only rationale from the applicant was for branding purposes. You know, yeah, I just don't think that's enough. And it's also, there was also, should have asked at the time, and I'm sure the applicant would have had something to say about it. You know, does it need to be on all night long? You know, how much branding activity takes place between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m.
And I'm also persuaded, or at least I should say, I have nothing to contradict what Laura and Laura said. I mean, I understand the concern. I think if the applicant had a way to address that, I might be willing to listen, because it is obviously a very unique property, and I don't know how much. I'm not sensitive to how much light pollution is a huge problem or what the slippery slope is, but since we don't have anything and the burden of proof is on them, I'd have to agree with the others.
All right, is someone ready to make a motion on the first variance?
I move that we deny the variance to allow an internally illuminated building sign.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, is there any discussion? All right, let's have a roll call. Laura Spector Morgan.
Aye.
Andrew.
Aye.
Laura Scott.
Aye.
Jim Moynihan.
Aye.
And Nick says aye. So it's denied 5-0. And our third variance is also for an internally illuminated freestanding monument sign where only an external illumination is permitted. What's our thinking on that? Andrew Winters?
Aye.
Laura Scott?
Aye.
Jim Moynihan?
Aye.
Nick Wallner says aye. Variance is denied 5-0. All righty. Craig, what do you hear about the Arns? Are they coming on board?
Well, I called and I left a voicemail suggesting that they call me or they could log in. Obviously, they haven't logged in and I haven't heard anything back. So continue on with the final case, I would say, at this point. And
Yeah, I'm looking
have
at
to make a decision at the end.
I'm looking at panelists and attendees, and I don't see them on the list. Okay, let's do the last case. And that is case 29-20, Carolyn Kuskern.
Oskren.
Thank you. For Whittemore Holdings LLC, applicant wishes to open a dance studio, principal use C-2, dance or music school or studio, and request a variance to Article 28-2-4J, table of principal uses, to permit a dance studio where such use is not otherwise allowed for property located at 45 Chanel Drive in an IN industrial district. Are you there? Yes, you are.
I'm here. Yep.
As you testify, state your name and where you live, and tell us what you want to do.
My name is Carolyn Costner, and I live here in Concord, New Hampshire. My dance studio would have just had its 21st recital this last year, and the last 10 years we've been located on Sheet Davis Road. And very suddenly we are needing to find a new home. And at 45 Chanel Drive, there is plenty of space. There's already currently a karate studio in the building and a body collision business, auto body shop. And the unit that I'm looking at used to be a church, which received a variance for that.
What about the karate studio, do they have a variance?
Karate studios are zoned differently than dance studios, so they don't need a variance. There's two zonings in Concord that we don't need, that dance studios are not allowed in, and industrial is one of them. Of course. So I really wanted to be able to stay up on the heights where we've been for so long. It has egress, it has parking, we have sprinklers. We're not going to make too much noise, which is something that's very hard when you're looking for a dance studio, where to go, where your neighbors are going to be affected by that, and where the other two businesses are both, the karate studio is very similar, and then the auto body shop makes noise too. We're not going to affect anybody in that area. And then it has one story. It also has one story and very high ceilings. And also with all the COVID laws right now, or guidelines, I need a lot of space for my dancers. A lot of the places that I've been looking for right now just don't have enough square footage for me to stay at the capacity of students that I've had in the past few years and to continue to grow.
Very good. Questions from members of the board? Jim?
Well, I have a question for Craig. I'm trying to figure out the karate studio, dance studio distinction under the ordinance, but I don't need to burden the applicant with it.
I was trying to figure that out.
I think one requires music and the other one doesn't.
It was a use determination made by Ham Rice prior to my coming into this office that a karate studio is more akin to a health and fitness club rather than a dance studio. Dance studios are specifically listed in the table of uses, so it's very clear what category they fell into. But with Mr. Wright's experience with karate schools and martial arts, he felt it was more of a health and fitness club.
And did the church, was that there by variance, or was that a non-conforming use?
That was there by variance.
Okay.
Andrew, questions?
No.
Or Scott?
No, I know a lot of dance studios that are in industrial parks and they work out great. So no problems.
Laura Spector Morgan?
No, I'm good.
All right. Is there anything else you'd like us to know?
I don't think so. I just really hope that I get this space. It's going to be perfect for us.
Very good. Thank you very much. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone who'd like to speak in opposition to this application?
No activity.
Great. Greg?
Nothing more to add.
Thank you.
Maybe one day looked at again, but I think it's a reasonable use.
Very good. Is there a second?
A second.
Is there a discussion?
I completely agree with everything Laura said, but I don't see how the hardship arises from the property. So that's my concern.
All right. Who haven't I heard from? Jim?
Yeah, I think I'm inclined to support it. I think Laura Scott's observation that a lot of dance studios are in the industrial parks works out fine, and I think there's some equity associated with allowing karate studios, but not dance studios.
So I just realized we have a motion that's been seconded. So are you ready for the vote? Morgan.
Nay.
Andrew Winters.
Well, I understand the hardship point. I think with use variances, it's a little trickier. But I think it's going to fit within the character as of this particular building, and I do think that they'll have a dance studio could have a really hard time finding a reasonable spot in Concord, especially in light of the restrictions. Not only because of that, but they do have a particular need that requires a very specific area to fill. So I think that I doubt she would go here. Or in fact, she basically said she's only going here. It's basically her only option at this point. So I think that it's a reasonable use. So I.
So that's an aye. Laura Scott,
Aye.
Jim Monahan,
Aye.
and Nick Wallner says aye. The motion carries 4-1. And that, folks, unless we hear from the arts, is tonight's agenda.
What you know, I can't ever recall someone not showing before when we were live, but I'm sure it's happened. What's the general, is it just dismissed or do they get a chance to explain?
In this particular case, my working with Mr. Arndt, he's been very forthcoming and professional. This is unusual, at least with my experience with him so far, that he wouldn't be in attendance here. The board could recess this case until the August 5th meeting, and that way Mr. Arndt would not have to go through the reapplication process.
I don't want to make him, you never know, some emergency could have come up. I would be inclined to recess it to the August meeting, so there's no additional costs on him. And that gives you time to reach out and make sure he's okay. And then in this case till the August, what's the date, Craig?
August 5th, 2020.
August 5th, 2020 meeting?
Is there a second?
A second.
Further discussion? Jim Monahan,
Aye.
Laura Scott,
Aye.
Andrew Winters,
Aye.
Laura Spector Morgan.
You went backwards. Aye.
You noticed.
I did.
Nick Wallner says aye, so it's been moved till August 5th. And Craig, I imagine you'll do the necessary contact with the Arndts on that.
Yes, I will.
And that ends tonight's business, other than the fact that we have minutes to approve, and the only folks who can, well, there's Jim, Laura, and myself there, so I can't make the motion. So if you're comfortable with the minutes, I'd welcome a motion to approve them.
So moved.
I'll move to approve the minutes of the June meeting.
Second, anyone?
Second.
Discussion, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain.
You don't call part, but I assume that was unanimous, so.
I wasn't here, so I'll abstain.
Right, so we've got Laura, and Jim saying aye. Great, you guys did great. Anything else, Craig?
Just a motion to adjourn, if there's nothing else.
I'll drink to that.
Good job.
Good. Hey, we did this in
Thank you all.
an hour and 10 minutes.
Yay. We're very efficient like this.
Pretty soon we'll have enough data to say whether these are faster, but it seems like they are.
Yeah.
So, Zoom.
All right. Bye, guys. Have a great
Bye,
4th.
everyone. Thank you.
Thank you
Guys, very
Take
much.
care, everybody.
Thank you very much for being there tonight for us. We appreciate that.
No problem. See you next week, Craig. Enjoy the weekend.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, sir. Take care, all.